Hello, and welcome to another video. What an idiot. Welcome back to another video. A little bit of a different one today. It's Richard indoors. I'm getting so little time off at the moment to go camping, and the weather's been atrocious. It's a lovely day today, but I've got a number of things to do, so I just thought I'd do a little video about something that's really been interesting me. First thing is, it's all about coffee, and those of you that know me, follow my videos, will know that I do like a really good cup of coffee with, well, certainly when I wake up on a camp. And I've got various different devices that I use for making coffee. I sometimes just, use a bit of instant, or I like to maybe use a coffee press. I've been given a really nice one from Wild Camping International, which I'm looking forward to trying. But my son gave me this. That's my son Sam, and he gave me it for Christmas, and it's an Aeropress. And I'd heard about them. I knew it used proper coffee and used it as a sort of plunger method to press the water through the coffee. But I had absolutely no idea there was such a following and, well, basically such a craze on this, even to the extent where there's World Aeropress Championships. I'm going to have a go at making some coffee today, and I'm going to do it two different ways. The first way will be just as the inventor Alan Adler made it, and that's a very simple method. And the other way is by one of the World Aeropress Champions methods. One is significantly more complicated than the other. And in one corner we have the basic ingredients and equipment, and in the corner here we have the ingredients and equipment we need for the world champion. So what I'm going to do is an experiment to see whether the basic cup of coffee, the Aeropress method, well, how that compares to a world championship winner method. And I'm going to test them under laboratory conditions. One basic method, one really complicated method, and see whether me as a complete novice can work out and, well, can tell the difference between the two, and whether it's worth all the fuss of making it like the world champion does. The one thing that's not going to change in it is I'm going to use the same coffee bean, and I'm going to use the same grind size throughout for both the experiments. I've got my coffee from this brilliant new independent cafe we've got here in Skipton. It's called the Clubhouse. Went there the other day, picked up some of my favourite beans. They roast them on site. It's a really fantastic place. If you are visiting, go and have a look at the Clubhouse. But we'll use their beans for both the experiments and see how we get on. So the World Championship winning recipe was by Wendelin van Bunnik from the Netherlands, and she won it a couple of years ago. And I borrowed a load of really flash coffee making gear here off a mate of mine who's really into his coffee. And you can set this timer here to exactly the temperature water that you need. So I'm going to set that at 92 degrees. And you can see now that it's just starting to heat up, and that will go to 92 degrees, which is the first part of the World Championship recipe. Well, I hope that kettle's not making too much noise. And what we're going to use here is called the inverted method of brewing, which Wendelin uses for her World Championship recipe. Usually you put the cap and the filter on there and just fill it up and then press the coffee through. But this is the inverted method here, where you prepare the coffee, there you go, on top of the plunger in there, and then put this cap with a filter on and invert it. And I think it's the main reason is you lose a little bit of coffee early on if you're having it the upright method, whereas you want to be allowing those coffee grounds to sort of bloom in the water for a little bit. So I'll use the inverted method as per Wendelin's World Championship recipe. In goes a filter, And this is 30 grams of Skipton's finest. And now this has got to go on the scales because I've got to measure the weight of the water going in. Right, gosh, it's complicated. 100 grams of water onto the coffee in 10 seconds. Start. There we are. Stir 20 times for 10 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right. Then put the cap on and expel the air. I can just see the filter paper changing colour, so I think that's all the air out. 40 seconds now. Reset, 40 seconds. Right, so that is 40 seconds. Over we go. And I shall plunge that through. That is a very strong coffee. But, right, that's through. They then say, top up, add another 100 grams of water. So if we put that on here, so that's on 0, and another 100 grams of water to the same temperature. And there's 100. And now it says we've got to cool it to 60 degrees by decanting it and sort of pouring it from one vessel into another. But what I'm going to do is, whilst that just cools by itself, I'm going to get on with Alan's much more basic recipe and we'll put them side by side. Right, so here is Alan, the inventor's method. Far more straightforward. Filter paper goes in, cap goes on, and he just goes for a level scoop. Bear in mind it's the same coffee, same grind size. There's a level scoop. He pops that in. Then he says just give it a little shake. And then he, let's see if I've got the camera angle right. Get you out a little bit there. How's that? That's better. And he just fills up with 80 degree water. That's the only precise thing he does, up to the 1.5 mark. So it's not an awful lot goes in. Let me get my 80 degree water. To the 1.5 mark. And you can see with his method there's already a little bit of leakage. But he stirs it for 10 seconds. And he plunges it straight through without any pause. So in we go. That's done. Now back onto the scales, because I'm going to make up exactly the same amount that good old Wendellin's got here. So with the flask, I'm going to pour this into another flask. Nothing like a bit of preparation, Richard, but hey, this is a real deal. So if I make up 348 in this identical flask, then we've got the same amount of fluid. So there you go, Wendelin, you can go over there. I'll put that in there. This in here. And make it up to 348. Oh, come on, precision. Yes! Right, clear the decks and let's have a look at these. So we have Alan and we have Wendelin. Alan looks a little bit thinner than Wendelin. You can probably see from there that Wendelin's probably a bit more fuller bodied. Let's give them a try. So basically, I'm just interested in whether all this faffing around is really just a load of rubbish, or whether that extra nearly 10 minutes in preparation for Wendelin's World Championship coffee is worth it. So here we go. Here's good old Alan's. Put that into a cup. There we are. Here you go, Wendelin. Right, I'd usually go ladies first, but I think it's probably best to try Alan's more sort of simple method and hope that all that extra fuss over Wendelin's one is worth it. Here we go. Cheers, Alan. It's a nice cup of coffee. I'm not a coffee expert, but you know, it's a cup of coffee, which I'd really appreciate on a camp in the morning. There's no real, would you say, complexity to it. I watch James Hoffman. He's the coffee guru, the barista expert. Fantastic watch if you haven't seen him. And he can taste all sorts of things in coffee, but I just taste it's a wee bit sort of thin, not really sort of a long-lasting taste, but nice cup of coffee. What I'll do is I'll just have a quick glass of water and give Wendelin the build-up. Back with you. And here we go. Wendelin from the Netherlands, world champion Aeropress barista. I think it's 2019. Got to hand it to her. It's very different and remarkably better. It's smoother. I can't pick out flavours like raisins and prunes and all sorts of things that people can, but it's definitely got a lot more satisfying taste to it. So yeah, I was interested in whether these, you know, extra steps and complexities to making a cup of coffee was either sensible or complete rubbish. But it seems that with that little bit of extra effort, it's certainly not world changing. I've had better cups of coffee, but I think if you can get that sort of difference out of an Aeropress, then it's maybe worth looking up some slightly more complex recipes than good old Alan's Basic. Alan is a fantastic drink, but I think with a tiny little bit more effort, yeah, that is a coffee that's head and shoulders above the basic recipe. Oh, one extra thing, I'm not looking at the coffee, I'm looking dead at the camera. I know where I've got a glass of water by feel, and I know I've swapped the coffees around. I'm going to do it a bit more, and I'm going to see if I can guess whose is whose in a sort of blind tasting. I'm not going to look at the coffee, so I'm going to close my eyes as I bring it up so I can't see which is the slightly thinner one. Here we go. Water. With the water. There's the second one. Easy. That's the champion one. And you can, I don't know if you can tell, but that's the darker, fuller one of Wendellin's, and that's a great cup of coffee by Alan. So even a blind tasting, I could tell which was the nicer one. Hope you enjoyed that. It's a bit of a different video, but there you go. There's a bit of variety for you. If you're not into sort of the complexities of coffee, then give it a go. I'm finding it great fun. Inexpensive equipment. You don't need one of those posh kettles with the temperature on it. If you've got a thermometer, just boil a kettle normally and let the water cool to whatever temperature you need. And you don't need all the fancy glassware that I've borrowed. So, I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks very much for joining me, and I very much look forward to seeing you again. It's the other way around. Oh.